Alright, hello guys, it's UnoPro back here again, and today I'm going to be giving some of my thoughts on Nova Blitz, especially the combat system, and why I think it's probably one of the best combat systems, if not the best, of any card game I've ever played. So let me just get up an example, and it's a pretty simple example, but I feel like it illustrates in the purest form just how beautiful the system is. And then we're going to go over some problems with it, and what kind of scenarios we need to make sure that this is true. Okay, so one of the best reasons it's great is that because you're attacking at both times, you're both acting at the same time, a defender can only block a specific creature. If that creature doesn't attack, then that creature that was going to block won't do anything at all on defense. Now, what this allows is a lot of mind gaming, where other games such as Magic the Gathering just simply don't allow. So if I was to attack, if I had two creatures in Magic the Gathering, and I only attack with one, then my opponent knows before he makes his blocks what creatures they're attacking, and so he has perfect information in regards to what creatures are attacking, and so he can make his blocks based off that. Now, in Nova Blitz, the beauty of this is that if I simply don't attack with one creature and attack with another, my opponent has to block the creature I was attacking with. Now this removes situations in which it is 100% correct to simply block, to not attack, because you will lose to the creature. So if I just have the Demonist here against Steadfast Paladin, and those are the only two creatures, then if this was Magic the Gathering, then of course it would never be correct to attack, because I can simply get blocked and killed. Okay, but my opponent knows, because he is attacking at the same time, that, well, obviously he won't attack because I can just kill it, so I can get the free damage in itself. So there's a whole layer of mind games here. So the first example is simply look. Okay, so let's say that Steadfast Paladin player is very defensive, you know, they just want to hold off the aggressive push. Well, in that case, there's still a decision. Obviously, killing the 3/2 with the 2/5 would be super value. You'd kill their best creature and you would retain health on your own. Okay, so in that case, then we can, maybe the aggressive player can predict, well, he's going to block the Demonist, I can attack with my Sacrificial Victim only and get in a free damage. Okay, but not only, we're not the only one that thinks this. This is perfect information in the Nova Blitz in regards to there's no combat tricks. So he could think, well, obviously he might think that I won't bother blocking the Demonist, so I'll attack this Sacrificial Victim. So it's kind of hard to explain, but anyone familiar with the game will kind of understand how there's so many mind games in the system. Not only this, he may think, well, both of his creatures can't stand up to my creature, so I can attack for free damage on the assumption that he won't attack or block at all. So we can already see here from just such a simple example, with two creatures against one, that there's already a lot of decisions. Now, in a perfect world where every deck is equal, great, this is a perfect system, probably can't even get much better. But however, there are times when the number of decisions can decrease, and I do feel like a big part of card games is making sure there's a lot of decisions. The decks don't play themselves, and that's how we really separate the skilled players. So it might not always be this way. So let's say that the Steadfast Paladin player is playing a control deck. He doesn't care about damage early on, he just wants to survive and clear the board of his aggressive opponent. So that immediately rules out that he will be attacking, which already decreases the amount of decisions, and it simply becomes, do I block the Demonist and do I block the Sacrificial Victim? Now this may be the case with many decks where they simply only block. They don't care about the damage. Even if they could have got the damage, it doesn't really bother them. So there's two decisions. Even then, there is still another element of decision making, which is going for long-term value versus saving life. Now, let's say the Steadfast Paladin was just a 2/2. If given enough time, with all creatures attacking, he can trade into both by trading into the 1/1 and then into the 3/2. But in this case, by trading into the 1/1 first, then he's taking an extra 3 damage. So there's already an element of decision making. Do I take more damage, or do I go for immediate value and try and trade for as many creatures as I can? So there's a lot of choices here. Do we value life? do we value points? So for this to be really relevant and the best it can be, ideally we want both decks to care about early damage. Now obviously control decks aren't going to care, and this does remove some elements from the combat system, but in any game we have super serious control decks that just want to control the board with spells and defensive creatures. It's kind of an element every game that the combat system will take a hit because of that. Now a couple of problems I have with it is that when you have two identical units, there becomes an element of luck in which one we choose to block. So let's say I want to block one of them. It's in my favour. If my opponent chooses to attack with only one of the two, then I have a 50-50 chance of choosing the right one. Now obviously, luck is an inherent part of any card game, but this simply adds another element of luck to a game that doesn't have much RNG, but it's obviously better if we can keep it that way. Now, maybe this needs to be changed, maybe it doesn't. And obviously you can't just look at this on a simple level, you need to account for the balance overall. So if cards that make a copy of themselves are really strong, this can be a way to nerf them by making that if you block one, if you say block one, and one of them attacks, you just block something with the same name and the same stats. That's one way to do it, but also if those cards are a bit underplayed, then it's fine to keep it this way. Sure, we have a bit of luck, but it helps to buff those cards in a sense where there's a 50-50 chance that you can get a free attack. Now with the last patch, those who followed the game will know that Control took a heavy hit, and there's already some signs that the aggro decks are really strong. Now, this is a factor in most games, but the fact that a control player can't attack our opponent's creatures directly means that if our opponent swarms the board, there's a lot of situations where even if you kind of have control, your opponent can just play a ton of creatures and essentially ignore them. They'll lose one creature per attack, but if they're attacking with 6 other creatures, it doesn't really matter. Now, this is not an inherent problem, but it is a tool that the devs can use to actually balance the game. So if swarming with creatures is too strong, then they can maybe do something about it. Not an easy fix for that one, but I'm sure the devs can come up with something. And then if aggro is already balanced, then there's probably not much reason to change it. Okay, so, but overall, I'm mainly nitpicking here, okay, so just some of the problems, and obviously you never need a perfect system, but I honestly believe that Nova Blitz's combat system is probably the best I've played. There's just so many different decisions, and there can never be a right decision, because there's a moment there is a right decision. Well, it's probably unfair to say that there can never be a right decision, but there never can be, a meta decision. If my opponent plays this, what do I play? You can't ask that question, because if that is the right answer, then there'll be a play based around it. Just earlier today, I was playing against an opponent really close. I had him at full health, and so I had 2 attack creatures and 3 1/1s. Okay, so my opponent had 2 creatures, and so in this situation, I thought, well, he has 4 health. If I just attack with the 3 1/1s, then he'll block my 2 attack creatures, and then I'll get 3 damage in for free, and I won't lose any creatures. Because I thought, well, he has to block with the 2 attack, because otherwise if I attack with everything, he'll simply die. Now, when I just attacked with my 3 1/1s, thinking I was very smart, I got completely outplayed by my opponent, because he just decided to go on the offensive and attack. So I was looking like an idiot, as I had lethal on my board if I attack with all my creatures, because my opponent just simply didn't defend in a situation where he had such a low life total. Because there is no correct answer in 99% of the situations. And that's a truly great moment. And once we see tournaments with really high level players, I think we'll see this in action, and it's just a fantastic element of the game, which really wouldn't be possible if we didn't attack and defend at the same time. Okay, so I just wanted to go back and talk about the initiative for a bit. So currently, for those who aren't familiar, basically the initiative is the person who, whenever you play a card, you transfer the initiative to your opponent. Now, this basically means that you have the initiative, that you're the first one attacking. Okay? So, at the moment, this doesn't really mean a lot. Now, of course, every now and then, there are times when both players can kill each other on the same turn, which is when it mainly comes up. There's also a couple cards in Chaos that basically get an extra attack when you have the initiative. So the idea of this is to reward playing creatures first, because if you play a creature and then your opponent has to play a card to react, then you get the initiative back, which is why it fits into the aggressive nature of many Chaos minions. Okay, but currently it's not largely relevant. There's only a couple situations where it'll matter. Now what this means is that when both players are playing creatures, there's very little incentive for one player to play their creature first, because you either want to see, maybe I need to play a creature that's good defensively so I can block, or my opponent played a utility creature so I can play a very aggressive one and get damage in. Now, I think there probably should be some element of incentive to play creatures first, and it shouldn't be about, holding your minion over the thing until the last second to play it before the timer runs out. It shouldn't really be an element. It should be more about deciding, do we want to play first, do we want to wait for our opponent's creature. So the main kind of idea of what I'm going to be talking about is that because it's a real-time card game, we have to approach it differently. But what I believe is, the game should reward fast decision making, but rather than just fast decision making, it shouldn't really include many elements of micro mechanics. So the ability to place a card quickly isn't really advantageous, and it's not what card games are about. But we still want to reward fast decision making. So currently, if there is a situation in which both players have a reason to play a card as soon as possible, then it will currently come down to the simple micro task of moving a card into play. It's not about fast decision making, it's about who can move their mouse faster. This also encourages ping, which is something we never really see in a card game. Now obviously, when we're both 5 seconds into a turn and we both decide to make a decision at the same time, of course this will have some effect, but there's not much we can do about that. Okay, so let's say there's a situation where both of us are on 3 health, and we both have a card that can deal 3 damage. Obviously at the start of the turn we want to do it as soon as possible to kill them instantly. And in this situation it's simply a matter of who can click their card first, aim at their opponent's face, and win the game. Now, what I would propose to fix this, and also increase the value of the initiative, is by giving the player with initiative just a small window of time, maybe 2-3 seconds, where they get to act first. And obviously if you act, you will lose this window. So what this does is it still rewards fast decision making by having a small time window which you have this advantage, and in a couple more cases than it currently is, you will be rewarded for having the initiative and the ability to kill your opponent first. So this removes all situations where it's about who can click first, who's waiting for the next turn to start, and who can instantly kill their opponent. And so that's basically my idea, is that we would have the extra time. So it is likely that my idea is probably inferior to other possible ideas, but the main thing I'm getting at is what we want to achieve in my mind, and I'm sure the devs will be thinking about this at least in some elements, is that I would want to have some increased reward for playing creatures first, because currently the initiative doesn't really help you 95% of the time. Okay, and I also want to encourage fast decision making, something the devs have obviously shown in the design of the game, where we have a small amount of time to make decisions, and both players are making it at the same time. That is something we want to reward. But we don't want to reward someone who gets better at clicking cards and playing them faster. So hopefully this is some kind of feedback for the devs, something they can keep in mind, because I really don't feel like games should be decided by who can click a card first. So this was a little bit of a different video than what I'll normally be doing. I'll be getting back into a couple deck kicks soon. Still working on some decks with tempo, control, that kind of thing. If you want to see more, subscribe. And if you have any thoughts about the topic, I'd love to hear them in the comment section. Thanks a lot, guys.